As most of you know, I'm F4H Racerz, and today I have a video that I've been wanting to make for quite some while. Today I'm going to explain exactly the path that I took to get where I am today in the Forza community, so that for those wanting to get involved in esports, get a better idea of how others, such as myself, achieved it. It all began in about 2011 when I enjoyed racing my mate Angus, or as he's known in the community, Quattro, on Forza 4. We were questionably good at the game with barely any understanding of the game itself. You know, in any public lobbies we were usually sweating incredibly hard to get anywhere near the front. My point is, when we started we weren't insane at the game, we had to improve. Eventually we found out about the F1 franchise, specifically F1 2014, so I began a search for a competitive racing league on there. Back then though, I was a wheel user, which obviously shook up my previous pad knowledge I had acquired from Forza 4. However, luckily, because of my lack of skill and lack of knowledge of driving on a pad at the time, I was actually faster on F1 than I was on Forza. Then, in one random sprint lobby around Suzuka, I was asked to join my first ever league, the BPRL. This is the league that shaped me into the driver that I am today, and you can see plenty of my old races in that league, you know, in the deep down depths of my YouTube channel right here. Somehow, immediately I was competitive and won my second ever league race I entered. But I developed two main rivals in this season of racing, Sweaty Goblin 42 and Zed Nausea. The rivalry these two gave me pushed me to find those tenths you need, and ultimately gave me the drive I needed to get quicker. This championship, known as the BPRL F1 Season 3 Championship, turned out to be the most fun and most important league racing season I've ever taken part in. And I genuinely believe that I would be a completely different driver compared to what I am now if I didn't take part in this specific set of races. Another very important part of my esport upbringing happened in this season. A guy called Reversal joined, and he was in the pinnacle league of F1, which is AOR F1 at the time. It still is actually. And basically he just joined this league with the aim to try and destroy us all. At the time I saw myself as a fairly dominant driver, to be honest with you, so I thought I'd give it my best to bring the challenge to Reversal. But in short, he thrashed me, he completely destroyed me, and this opened up my eyes as to the ways you could gain those precious last few tenths, which were oh so hard to get. I took part in another few smaller, relatively insignificant F1 leagues before I stepped back over to the Forza franchise. In total, I was on F1 for about a year and a half, but I'd learned a ridiculous amount of racing knowledge from it. Back on Forza, my rivalry with Reversal was reset as we both had to relearn the game from the ground up. We began in a Formula E championship in which we were incredibly well matched once again at the front. It was in these races that I got to grips with the basics of Forza, and I learned to properly battle side by side with people. It turned out that actually I enjoyed Forza a lot more thanks to the far superior contact model compared to F1. In short, I raced and I raced and I raced, constantly improving in every race I entered. It was after about a year of this that I finally was getting good enough to start getting noticed.
Fire off GTZ Lucifer. It was very close, and I just misjudged it through turn 3. We made contact. Then moving ahead, Racer here on my team up against Attacks Johnson there on the inside on the exit of turn 5. Just going to give him enough room, just about. He's going to still have the inside line for the left-hander here. Racer's still fighting. He's actually giving it a very good go at the moment, but he's just going to dip into the gravel there. He's going to slow him down.
This clip, taken from Super GT's YouTube channel, was the first mainstream Forza event I ever did. It was one of the races from his community battle against a top racer, Attacks Johnson. The significance of this is that this was the race that got my name out there, even though the likes of Johnson and others were running away from me. It was also the race where I met some dude called Force 1, who, as you may know, is my current teammate and also provided me with the opportunity to race for F4H for the first time. This leads me on perfectly to just that, my first race for a top team. It was time for a big event for F4H, the Nürburgring 24 hours over at Tora. They were running a driver short and were desperately searching for someone to fill in. A few days before the race, I got a message from Force One offering me a drive for the team. Obviously, I accepted and couldn't believe that I had the opportunity to drive for the team, as it was genuinely one that I used to look up to and also one that I believed was way out of my reach. I knew that this was it. If I performed well, there was a very slight chance that I'd be picked up and would finally have a team, let alone a top team. Thankfully, I seemed to perform when it mattered, pulling off a few moments of magic that I believe were what got me my seat. This on screen now was one of them, round the outside of our main rival at the first opportunity I had. A spectacular way to begin my stint for the team. Then another moment I'm particularly proud of, this time in the wet. I'd got caught up in an incident at the beginning of the stint and had to fight my way back up the pack. And even though I got caught up behind the slower cars in the tightest part of the Nordschleife, I somehow managed to navigate around all of them, including my current team leader who's ahead right now, F4H Diablo. As you can see, it was extremely treacherous conditions, and so pulling off the moves I did without contact was near impossible to do, if I can say so myself. Also, I really don't want to imagine where I'd be if I took out Diablo in these few corners here. I'm sure this entire thing would be a bit different to how it is now. After this race, things went initially quite quiet, regardless of my good performance, until we got to the Forza RC. In this season, I managed to qualify once into the top 32 globally. I was matched against the global number 2 F4H Shockwave. He was absolutely rapid. I knew he would be, but I've never, back then I'd never driven against anyone of his pace before. Yet here I was on a Race Boys stream, having to give it my absolute all to come out on top against him. And somehow, in this race, I pulled off my best defensive drive I've ever done to win the race. It was a huge moment for me, even though Shockwave eventually pit me in the last race to claim a grand final spot. It was at this moment though that I received a huge confidence boost, as I started to come to terms with the fact that I was now a pretty quick driver, especially when it came to defensive driving itself. Just a few days after, I got the request to join F4H, which is the team I'm glad to be currently residing at now. Since then, I've improved further and have managed to finish 13th globally at the Le Mans Offline Season 3 Forza RC Global Finals, as well as winning the Forza Mini Challenge and winning in the ORL V8 Supercar Championship, all in the last 6 months. Crucially, the overall message though I want to give is, if you're passionate about the game, you can get where you want to go, but you have to be prepared to put in the practice. This barely 10-minute video has compacted 2 years of dedicated sweating to get good. However, it's fun, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. That's my story anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please leave a like, as this video took an absolute age to put together, but I feel it's worth it. Also subscribe if you want more, and comment what you thought about this video and what you want to see in the future, and I'll be sure to read it and get back to you or whatever. But yeah, cheers again guys, all the best, and I'll see you next time.